This week on the Salesforce Admins podcast, I'm joined by Khushwant Singh to talk about what happens when Salesforce stops just being a destination and starts becoming part of every system your business already relies on. That's right, from Headless 360 to Setup with Agentforce, Khush breaks down how admins are moving beyond configuring features and into orchestrating how data, AI agents, automation, and people work together across the business. Now, we're going to dig into what headless actually means for admins, why governance and trust matter more than ever in an AI-first world, and how Salesforce is building toward a future where setting up complex systems really becomes more of a conversation than a checklist. This episode is really about systems thinking, how admins can connect experiences without forcing teams to rebuild everything from scratch. So if you've been trying to figure out where AI fits into your role or how your role is evolving alongside it, I promise you this episode gives you a practical look at what's already happening and what's coming next. So be sure to hit that subscribe button, share this episode with your favorite architect or admin friend, and let's get Khush on the podcast. So Khush, welcome back to the podcast.
Thank you for having me back, Mike.
I say that because I had to look, and it was 2022. Back in the day, you were talking Experience Cloud when we last had you on. You've since moved on, moved up, had your hands in a lot of things, did an admin keynote with me. So let's start there and let's kind of catch everybody up on some of the products you've been working on. And then we're going to talk about the newest one that we launched at TDX this year.
Yeah, happy to. And again, great to be back. I think back in the day, started obviously with Experience Cloud. And Experience Cloud really was you're building a product that is external facing. And again, it's built on the same platform. And again, as we looked at the product portfolio, it just made sense to start to bring things together. So we've actually sort of rolled and morphed into the application development platform. Obviously, within the platform organization, everything pro code, low code, desktop, mobile. And so there have been quite a few products leading up to here, anything from, our delivery on mobile offline, the Salesforce mobile app, all the way to Agentforce Vibes, the Agentforce experience layer, obviously a fair amount of work on the headless side of things. So yeah, it's been quite a journey to this particular point, Mike.
Yeah, and I mean, it's actually hard to point out things that aren't admin friendly that you've had your hands on because you've always kind of championed everybody being able to build on our platform. So let's talk about TDX this year because we launched Headless 360.
Oh, yeah, we did.
By the way, in case you forgot.
Yeah, it was a massive announcement. I think, look, as you think about what's happening in the market right now, you've got customers engaging through many different surface areas. We've got customers on ChatGPT, on Claude, on Gemini, Teams. At the same time, you've got developers also using a variety of different tools, different IDEs, different coding agents. And so I think Headless 360 really is a testament to acknowledging this change in the market, in the industry, and trying to meet the customer where they are, the customer being an end user or the customer being a developer, an admin, just meeting them where they are in whichever tool, whichever interface they might be.
Yeah, I mean, do you recall ever a time in technology when it was, I hate to use the euphemism, but like the Wild West, where I feel like there's so many choices for what you can do just in regards to AI?
There is, and there is obviously a good side to it. There is also a downside to it. The good side is really you're spoiled for choice. There is innovation that is helping you drive productivity day in, day out. The downside of this is you just have to be really careful about quality, about trust, about governance, and you have to ensure that while you're going fast, you're not sort of compromising on that trust aspect of things. And that's what we're trying to do here at Salesforce, and just trying to be a little bit more thoughtful in our approach over here.
Yeah. So uh, my developer friend, Josh Burke, who comes on the podcast, usually has to explain things to me every now and then. I think developers are very familiar with the term headless.
Yes.
I'm not sure outside of headless flows, which I know what those mean.
Yeah.
I'm not sure admins could understand or could confidently, buzz in on a game show and answer what is headless 360. So can you help them kind of understand what is headless 360 if they had to tell their manager?
Yeah, sure. So one way to think about it is, let's say you're a customer and you've got your own website. It's built out of React. It's not built on the Salesforce platform, but there is so much of your goodness and investment that you have within the Salesforce platform that you want to be able to easily reuse in the context of this other website that you have, portal that you have, mobile application that you have. All of that may not be built on the Salesforce platform. You want to be able to reuse your investments seamlessly. And so Headless 360 really is about how do we empower you, the customer, to be able to easily sort of use those assets, those investments within the Salesforce platform in that surface area that you've got, right? That may not be on the Salesforce platform, right? So it's really about giving them that flexibility so that they can easily reuse their investments in all of these various surface areas and just meet their customers wherever they are versus bring their customers into Salesforce.
Yeah, I think it makes sense. I mean, I was a customer way back in '06 when I remember it was like, transfer and move to Salesforce and everything was have it on the platform, have it on the platform. And then shortly thereafter, it was kind of like almost the realization that we had was, well, it's a lot of friction to constantly move platforms. What if companies just integrate and we become that connector to everything?
Mm-hmm.
And I feel the same way with this.
100%. And you know what? Look, I think the one example is if you go into the Williams-Sonoma website, right?
Mm-hmm.
Williams-Sonoma website, it's not built in Salesforce. But if you use their sous chef AI, I think I'm not sure what they call it, but
I'm sure it's something really, really snappy and smart.
Olive. There you go.
Olive, yeah. See,
yeah, a snappy name right there. That agent is an Agentforce agent, right? So that's one example where Salesforce is being used in in whichever head that you'd like us to be in. And so in this particular case, the Salesforce agent is in the Williams Sonoma website. So that's just one example where we are trying to make it easier for this integration to happen through the Headless 360 platform. Now that's one view, right? And that's the view I would say, an easy way to try to understand what it means for Headless 360.
Yeah, because then as an admin, as a developer, you're not having to sit down and say, okay, well, if we move to the Salesforce platform, we have to deprecate everything that we just spent the last 2 years building on our site. When
Exactly.
Marketing's like, no, we just got the site pixel perfect the way we want it.
Yep.
Now we can integrate, kind of best of everything that we want. For admins who aren't thinking of maybe websites, how does Headless 360 play into other integrations that they may talk to IT or internal stakeholders about?
Yeah. So, for example, when admins are chatting with their other internal stake, they may have a custom application that they already have in place, and they want to be able to have Salesforce data, Salesforce visualizations surface in whichever application they may have already. That's one example, right? So again, it is about bringing Salesforce to wherever they may already have. So, for example, an admin may have a business application that already runs within ChatGPT. So ChatGPT, for example, it allows companies to create bespoke applications. And, if you want to be able to integrate Salesforce into that application, that's doable as well. It doesn't have to be in ChatGPT. It could be in any other existing non-agentic application as well. But it's about that. Look, you don't have to rebuild everything. Wherever you are, you've got an existing application. We'll find a way through Headless 360 to be able to bring Salesforce to it.
Yeah, no, it totally makes sense. I mean, in that way, we can really think about how are we making sure that the departments have the software and the tech that they want, but also access to all of the information that they need to do their jobs the best.
Mm-hmm.
So Headless 360 is a big thing we talked about. I also know I saw you in some True to the Core and True to the Core deep dive stuff. Was there some features you were talking about in that possibly play into what admins are going to be working on for the rest of this year?
Well, yeah, I mean, so a few aspects as we think about Headless 360 that would be of interest to admins, right? So first and foremost, there's you've all seen the stack diagram of the Salesforce platform. You've got those four layers. You've got your layers of engagement, you've layers of context, you've got the sort of our data foundation, etc. So you've got those layers that make up the Salesforce platform. Now, those layers are, for the last 27 years, those layers have been put in place for a human, right? And now what the product teams and the engineering teams are doing is going back and saying, how do we now open this up for both for a human and an agent, right? So that the agent can do that work on behalf of the admin when the admin sort of wants a task to be done for that particular reason. And so what that means is that we're translating our entire platform into a set of MCPs, a set of skills, a set of metadata that is grounded, so that these agents can do the work on behalf of the admins. Right? So one good example is the setup with Agentforce, right? Which is so far so good. We've gotten great feedback on it. Now, behind the scenes is a set of skills, a set of MCPs that are firing off, right, to be able to get that task done. And so that's one thing that I think our admins can look to benefit from. The other piece is, I know we have some admins who are, familiar with some of these IDEs that we have out there. They use Cloud Code quite a bit. They use Vibes quite a bit. It may not be the entire admin audience, but for those audiences, again, the ability to be able to use all of these MCP skills in these development environments is another thing that our admins can really look forward towards. Now, the other thing that we've also worked on is, over the last few months, the foundation for these skills, these MCPs, this Headless 360 foundation has been very sort of focused on how do we unblock sort of these pro code use cases, right? Whether that's in Cloud Code, whether that's in Vibes, etc. But this is the same foundation upon which, as we speak in Safe Harbor, I share that we are building what we call our no-code offering as well, right? So how do you go about, in an unintimidating sort of type of interface, have this conversation with an agent, which behind the scenes is interacting with that same Headless 360 layer to help you build out your agents, your applications, to help you augment your existing agents and applications, help you set up, provision, configure Salesforce, right, from a 0 to 1 point of view, because we all know how setting it all up is quite a taxing task for our admins. So that's the potential I see for Headless 360 for our admin personas.
Yeah. I mean, to go back on some of the stuff that you were mentioning, I remember the first time I thought, hey, I could have ChatGPT rewrite ChatGPT's instructions. and I remember thinking, like, I'm so far ahead of the curve, man. I'm making AI rebuild AI. And then, it was only a few weeks later that Cheryl was demoing setup with Agentforce. And I thought, oh, that makes so much more sense, because all of the things that you were having that setup agent do are things that not necessarily admins don't like doing. It's like paper cuts. It's the little things that take 20, 30 minutes out of your day when you really wanted that solid hour to build that application, kind of start to finish.
Indeed. So we really view Headless 360 as the foundation upon which agents can work on behalf of the admins. And again, look, this is agents and admins working together, right? Because again, we've got to have the human presence to be able to validate, to be able to interrupt, to be able to sort of initiate any actions that are performed by the agents. And if these agents can help drive greater productivity, then it's a win-win, while at the same time having governance by humans over it.
Right, absolutely. Do you envision us being at a point where all of setting up Salesforce could just be a conversation with an agent based on the business and what they're trying to accomplish?
We are trying to do that. We're
Yeah.
trying to do that. Now, the I'll give you a view into sort of our approach over here. Um, we're taking a steel thread approach here, where just trying to, for example, set up a customer service agent, that cuts across service cloud, cuts across platform, cuts across Agentforce, cuts across data cloud. So we've got to take a system view, an end-to-end view versus a feature view, because that's what our admins go through. That's what a practitioner goes through. They look at it from a steel thread point of view, and that's what we as product teams have to do. And so as we think about using agents to go ahead and help provision, setup, get Salesforce up and running really quickly, that's the new strategy that we are taking over here, a steel thread view, so that we can look across the board and say, look, which MCPs are missing, which skills are missing, which APIs are missing, which metadata needs to be grounded. How do we ensure that across this entire steel thread, right, quality is being ensured, governance is being woven into. Now, this is so we are starting that way, and we want to scale that way as well, right? So my hope is that come Dreamforce this year, we'll be able to at least have a sizable number of steel threads that we feel really, really confident about on Agentforce really helping, and with agents helping in this particular side of things. So yeah, that's the approach we're taking, Mike.
Wow, that's going to be amazing. I can't. Every time you think, oh, we've probably invented everything, technology just comes along and pulls the rug out from underneath of you and says, ha, there's new stuff. You got to figure this out now. I'd be curious. You're so ingrained in a lot of things that admins do on the platform, a lot of things developers do on the platform, and then also having to keep up with AI. What is a piece of advice you could give people for how you personally kind of keep up with the newest news and innovation on what's going on with AI?
Wow, that's a good question. I think, first and foremost, I spend a lot of time just looking at reading publications like, what's on TechCrunch, what's on TechMeme, trying to just understand how are companies, how are technology providers adapting, how are companies using AI. That's one. The second one is actually you learn a lot via speaking with others in the community, right? You talk to customers, you talk to other admins, you talk to other developers, and you get to understand their use cases that they're working through, and some of the very many innovative workarounds or uses of AI that they're applying. And then you're thinking about this, that wow, maybe I should. There's a trend here. There's something that we should be backing up and maybe providing out of the box within the product. And so I think that community piece, speaking with other customers, with your peers, your colleagues from different companies, I think that sort of brings a very practitioners and practical view to things. So I think if you combine it with some of these, so if you take a combination of both, what's being published out in the internet, what's sort of bleeding edge and all of these various publications, and then you sort of marry that and juxtapose that with the practical aspects on how it's implemented in all of these various by your peers in different companies. That's kind of how I that's at least the approach that I've taken, and I've seen it help even with some of my teammates who use a similar approach as well, Mike.
Yeah, I would agree. I mean, coming fresh off of being at a conference, just even talking with people, you find more resources than you think you could find, and it exposes you to different levels of thought. As we kind of close things out, I'd love to know. I'm always big, especially when I'm coaching people for events, for TDX, for keynotes, because I've been in keynote with you. I feel like when people are done listening to something, I always want to give them something very actionable that they should do, when they get done listening to a session or they get done listening to a podcast like this. So if you're a Salesforce admin listening to this podcast, what is one thing you think you should do right after you listen to this podcast?
Good one. It's a tricky question. I would say that, look, I would encourage everyone to go ahead and use and try and give setup with Agentforce a run, right?
Mm-hmm.
Take it out for a spin. It's available in an open beta. And I would encourage all of you all to give it a try, please. We've gotten so much great feedback. We are, a stone's throw away before we make it generally available. And this is our first approach to using Agentforce, using AI to help improve the productivity and quality of life of our admins. It's not our last, but it is definitely our best foot forward right now. And we'd love to get your feedback. Like I said, we're in the final mile, and your feedback is much appreciated. So try it out.
I love it. Khush, you've always been a fan of admins, and I am so grateful to have you back on the podcast, and even more thankful that you are constantly helping Salesforce innovate for everybody in the tech industry to be successful. So I appreciate you spending a little time with us today.
No, of course, it's my pleasure. Admins are the lifeblood of Salesforce. You're out there, you're representing our products, you're using our products, you're championing our products, you're giving us tough love, and we can't be more appreciative. And so this is an honor to be here on this podcast to speak with you, Mike, and to speak with all of our admins.
And a big thanks to Khushwant Singh for joining me and sharing how Headless 360 and Agentforce are reshaping the way admins build and manage systems across the business. My big takeaway? Well, the future admin isn't just configuring Salesforce. They're designing trusted systems where automation, data, agents, and people all work together for better outcomes. And as Khush said, trust and governance will still sit right at the center of all that work. So if you haven't already, take setup with Agentforce for a spin and start exploring what human plus agent collaboration can look like in your org. And of course, be sure to subscribe, leave a review, and as always, I would love it if you share this episode with your friends. Until next time, we'll see you in the cloud.